January 8th is an interesting day. The noise of New Year's Eve is gone. The motivation posts are slowing down. And real life has quietly returned. The emails are back, the calendar is full again, and the routines quietly return. Some people feel energized right now and think, this will be the best year of my life. And that excitement is real. It matters. Others feel more cautious. They remember past years, how motivation faded, how life slowly pulled them back into the same routines. Some don't even set resolutions anymore. Not because they lack ambition, but because disappointment taught them to lower expectations. Both reactions are human. Both are normal. This is actually the moment when starting again becomes harder than giving up. Not because they don't want change, but because the body remembers how this usually goes. Old habits, old reactions, familiar patterns waiting patiently in the background. And that's what I want to talk about today, my friends. When we talk about change, we talk almost exclusively about motivation. New goals, new habits, new energy. But very few people talk about what actually decides whether change sticks. And it's not discipline. It's not ambition. And it's definitely not another list of resolutions. It's familiarity. It is biology. The body's preference for what it already knows. Because familiar patterns require less energy, less uncertainty, and feel safer to the nervous system even when they no longer serve us. My name is Panos, and this is the Adapt and Fly podcast, a space for insurance and financial planning professionals who refuse to fall behind and choose to be ahead of their time, innovators and pioneers building future-ready practices that adapt and fly in a world shaped by AI, technology, and human behavior. So let me start with something personal. For many years, every January looked impressive from the outside. Clear goals, big plans, strong intention. And every year something almost invisible happened around the second week of January. Not failure, not collapse, just friction. Old reactions, old thought loops, old emotional responses quietly returning. I wasn't giving up, but I wasn't truly changing either. And for a long time, I thought this meant I wasn't trying hard enough. I was wrong. Here's the uncomfortable truth most people never hear. Our brain, and especially our nervous system, is not designed for growth. Its primary job is to keep us safe, regulate stress, and avoid uncertainty, not to push us toward change. Our brain, and especially our nervous system, is not designed for growth. Its primary job is to keep us safe, regulate stress, and avoid uncertainty, and of course not to push us toward change. And this is strange. It's built to help us survive by repeating what feels familiar and safe. It prefers what's familiar even if what's familiar includes stress, overthinking, procrastination, or habits you swear you want to leave behind. This isn't a motivational problem. It's a memory problem. A body memory problem. When the emotional high of January fades, and it always does, the nervous system gently pulls us back to what it recognizes as safe. That's why willpower alone rarely lasts. This isn't new knowledge. In fact, some of the clearest thinking on this comes from people who lived nearly 2,000 years ago. The Stoic philosophers, Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Epictetus. They didn't wake up trying to feel motivated. They worked on something far more powerful: Awareness. The Stoics practiced a simple but radical daily structure. In the morning, they set intention. Not goals, not fantasies. Questions. What kind of person do I want to be today? What matters most today? How do I want to respond when things don't go my way? And in the evening, they reflected. Briefly, honestly, without judgment. What triggered me today? What drained my energy? What gave me energy? What worked? What didn't? Not to criticize themselves, not to feel guilty, but to observe patterns. They understood something most of us forget. You cannot change what you do not observe. And let me say that again. You cannot change what you do not observe. Now here's where things get interesting. Because today, for the first time in history, we don't have to do this alone. Of course, we still need people. Friends, mentors, conversations, perspective. AI doesn't replace that. But used correctly, it can become something incredibly powerful. A thinking partner. Over the last months, I've been experimenting with this personally. Not using AI to motivate me, not using it to agree with me, and definitely not using it to hype me up. I gave it clear instructions. Observe me, challenge me, reflect patterns back to me, even if they are uncomfortable. And every morning I check in with ChatGPT, sometimes by voice, sometimes by writing. I share a short intention for the day, what I want to focus on, how I want to show up. And every night I share a short reflection on what actually happened. Nothing dramatic, nothing polished, just honest input. What triggered me? What worked? What didn't? What gave me energy? What drained me? Sometimes it's bullet points. Sometimes it's just messy. And from time to time, I ask one very specific question. Based on everything I've shared, what patterns do you see repeating? And what changes would actually help me improve? That question changes everything. Because AI has something that we don't. It remembers everything you tell it. Not just today, but yesterday, last week, last month. So it can see repetition. It can notice that the same things triggers you again and again. The same situation drains your energy. The same excuses show up in different forms. Things we usually miss because we experience life one day at a time. AI look at all those days together. That's what I mean by pattern recognition. And it doesn't get tired. It doesn't forget. It doesn't get emotional. That's what I mean by scale. It can look at dozens of moments and draw conclusions we would never connect on our own. Sometimes the feedback is uncomfortable. So I ask for that on purpose. I literally say, don't protect me. Tell me what I'm repeating and how I can change it. And that's where growth actually starts. This is not Stoicism repeated. This is Stoicism augmented. The Stoics did this with pen and paper. They reflected. They observed themselves. They looked for patterns in their behavior. We are doing the same thing, just with better memory and a wider view. And no, this is not about outsourcing responsibility. I still make the decisions. Of course, I still do the work. AI doesn't live my life. It just helps me see it clearly so I can choose and think better. So if you want something practical, here's a simple ritual you can start today. Create a dedicated AI space. Use the project feature in ChatGPT, for example. Give it context about your life, your work, your goals. Every morning write today's intention, what matters most, how you want to show up. Every evening write what triggered you, what worked, what didn't, what drained you, what gave you energy. Once or twice a week, again ask what patterns are emerging. And if you are wondering how to do this properly, how to structure it, how to give it right instructions technically, and how to use a dedicated ChatGPT project as a true thinking partner, in the next newsletter, we will share a short video showing exactly how to set this up step by step. Not theory, not hype, just a clear, practical way to make this work in real life. This year, I'm not betting on motivation. I'm betting on awareness. Same ambition, same goals, different strategy. Instead of trying harder, I'm trying to see more clearly. And clarity has a strange effect. Better decisions start happening naturally. We are living in extraordinary times, my friends. For the first times in history, access to reflection, perspective, and guidance is no longer reserved for the few. What once required decades, rare mentors, or privileged environments is now available to anyone willing to ask better questions. In the AI era, the quality of our questions matter more than the speed of our answers. If we use these tools intentionally, not to escape responsibility, but to deepen awareness, we can evolve quietly, consistently, intelligently. Not by doing more, but by seeing better. And from there, building an extraordinary life and a profession that doesn't just adapt, but truly evolves. And if something you shared today sparked a question, a doubt, or a reflection, you'll find a simple ask and share link in the newsletter. You can click that and you can submit your questions, which they will help shape this conversation even better and help this community grow smarter together. So my friends, let's make this an extra extraordinary year. A year to remember, a year that leaves a mark. Let's not watch history. Let's take the lead and write it. Not as spectators, but as protagonists. This is our moment to step forward and create a chapter that will stay in our lives and in this profession for years to come. Let's be the generation that dared to evolve. The pioneers, the innovators who elevated this profession to the level it truly deserves. The generation that became architects of a safer society and delivered a world-class experience to clients and to the whole society. And one day, when we look back, let's smile and say, wow, what an adventure that was. So let's go, my dear Adapt and Fly community. Thank you so very much for listening. I am Panos, and this was the Adapt and Fly podcast.